In the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, a woman named Rachel Morgan lived far from the noise of the world. She was a quiet soul, a former Air Force mechanic who once repaired the roaring engines of Apache helicopters overseas. Now she lived alone in a small wooden cabin surrounded by trees and mist, her only companion a gray Labrador named Milo. Her mornings began with the soft creak of her porch and a mug of strong black coffee, the same routine she had followed for years. But that morning something felt different. The forest was too still, the silence too heavy. As the fog curled through the woods, Rachel decided to take a walk, the kind that cleared her mind and helped her forget the memories she tried so hard to bury. She grabbed her old canvas backpack, whistled for Milo, and set out into the damp mountain trail. She had no idea that before the day ended she would uncover a secret buried for decades, a secret the world was never meant to see. The air grew colder as they walked deeper, and Milo suddenly stopped, ears raised, his body tense. Rachel followed his gaze and saw something strange hidden under vines and moss, a glint of metal, the edge of a shape she recognized instantly. Her heart began to race. It was the remains of a helicopter almost eaten by the forest. She pushed through the undergrowth, her breath catching when she saw it clearly. An A-64 Apache, the kind she used to work on. It wasn't supposed to be here. No rescue markings, no recovery signs, no record of a crash, just silence. Inside, the pilot's remains sat still strapped to the seat. Rachel whispered a quiet prayer, but then Milo pawed at something under the cockpit floor. She brushed away dirt, revealing a hidden compartment, and inside it a sealed military hard drive. She held it in her trembling hands. Whatever this was, it wasn't random. It was something meant to stay buried. Rachel took the hard drive home, her heart pounding. Inside her cabin, she placed it on the table and opened her old military laptop, one she hadn't touched in years. When she plugged in the drive, rows of encrypted files appeared, classified, locked behind layers of military security. She couldn't open anything, but she knew exactly what that meant. This wasn't just debris from an old mission. It was evidence. Rachel leaned back, her mind racing. The crash, the hidden drive, the unmarked helicopter, it all screamed one thing: cover-up. She knew how the military buried things they didn't want found. Still, part of her wanted to leave it alone, but the part of her that had seen corruption and lies in uniform whispered louder. She had to know. As the night deepened, she kept trying to access the files, but nothing worked. Exhausted, she decided to rest. But Milo began to growl low by the door. Rachel froze. She walked to the window and peered through the blinds. At first, all she saw was fog until she noticed a small light moving through the clouds. It hovered for a moment, then vanished. A drone, not a civilian one, a military-grade surveillance drone. Rachel's stomach dropped. They knew someone was watching. Within seconds, she grabbed the hard drive, her sidearm, and survival gear. She loaded her old military backpack, grabbed Milo's collar, and whispered, "It's happening." Before she could take another step, the window exploded. Gunfire tore through the cabin. Splinters flew like shrapnel as she dove to the floor, heart pounding. They were here. Whoever wanted that drive buried had found her. Rachel didn't hesitate. She flipped open a trapdoor beneath her rug, revealing a narrow tunnel once used by bootleggers decades ago. "Go, Milo," she whispered, pushing the dog inside before following and sealing the hatch above. Gunfire shook the cabin overhead as she crawled through the dirt and roots, lungs burning. She could hear men shouting commands above her, boots crashing across her floor. Finally, light appeared at the tunnel's end. Rachel and Milo burst out into the forest, gasping for air. Behind them, smoke curled from her cabin. It was burning. Her home was gone, her past erased. She gritted her teeth and kept moving. She didn't have time to grieve. Every instinct told her she was being hunted. By dawn, she reached a ridge and collapsed behind thick, mossy rocks. Her hands trembled as she looked at Milo, who was still alert, still loyal. The pain of what she'd lost started to sink in, the peace she built, the years she spent trying to forget. But deep down, she knew this wasn't random. Someone wanted that truth gone forever, and she was the only one who could bring it to light. She thought of the pilot's remains, the secret drive, and her old friend Thomas Weber, the pilot who vanished years ago under classified circumstances. Could it be him? Suddenly her grief turned into fire. "They buried him," she whispered, "and they buried the truth." She opened her pack and looked at the drive. Not anymore. The silence around her shifted. She was no longer running from her past. She was walking into it. Rachel studied an old map from her emergency kit, searching for a place to hide and regroup. Then she saw it, a note scribbled in Weber's handwriting. "Widow's Maw backup stash." It was an old coal mine 20 miles north. That was where she needed to go. Inside, Weber might have hidden more evidence, or maybe a way out. For days, Rachel and Milo moved through the mountains like ghosts, traveling only at night, resting under thick cover during the day. Rain fell, cold and steady, soaking their clothes. She barely slept. The woods were alive with sounds, the crack of branches, the distant hum of engines. They were tracking her. Once she spotted 2 men in tactical gear sweeping the forest below with infrared scopes. They weren't soldiers, they were contractors, mercenaries, paid to clean up messes. Rachel waited until they moved on, then pressed forward. Each mile brought pain, but she didn't stop. Her body screamed, but her purpose burned brighter. On the 4th night, she finally reached the mine. The entrance yawned like the mouth of a sleeping beast, cold air seeping from within. "You ready?" she whispered to Milo. He wagged his tail once and stepped inside first. The tunnel swallowed them in darkness. Using a flashlight and Weber's map, Rachel moved carefully through the twisting paths, every creak echoing through the old wooden beams. Then deep inside, she saw it. A black military case hidden beneath rusted mining tools. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were sealed documents, a micro SD card labeled video evidence, and a satellite phone wrapped in foil. Her breath caught. Weber had known. He'd left her the truth. Rachel turned on the phone, inserted the card, and opened the file. What she saw made her blood run cold. On screen was a woman sitting behind a glass desk, speaking calmly into a camera. Her nameplate read, "Isabella Reed, CEO, Aegis Tactical Solutions." Rachel knew that name. Everyone in the service did. Aegis was one of the biggest private military contractors in the world. And here was Reed calmly arranging an illegal arms deal with a foreign buyer, selling American weapons to terrorist cells. The video was clear, the audio undeniable. Rachel covered her mouth in shock. This was what Weber had died for. She picked up the satellite phone, entered a number she remembered from Weber's notes. A journalist named Ben Carter. He answered after 2 rings. "Carter," he said. Rachel took a breath. "My name's Rachel Morgan. I found something Weber died for. They're coming for me." Silence, then his calm voice replied, "Where are you?" She hesitated. "Widow's Maw, but I won't be here long." She ended the call, knowing the phone's signal would give away her location. Her next move was clear: get out. Fast. She packed everything, but before she could leave, a sound echoed through the tunnel: footsteps. Heavy boots coming closer. They'd found her. Rachel turned off her flashlight, her breath quiet and shallow. Milo pressed close to her leg, muscles tense. She opened her pack, her fingers brushing against something cold. A flare, a pistol, and one last frag grenade she had kept from service. She pulled the pin and rolled it down the tunnel. A thunderous explosion rocked the mine, shaking the ground and collapsing the path behind her. Dust filled the air, choking her lungs. "Come on," she gasped, pulling Milo forward. They ran through twisting passages, the glow of fire flickering behind them. The cave walls groaned and cracked, rocks tumbling as the tunnel began to collapse. Finally, they reached a rusted ladder leading up to a metal hatch. Rachel climbed, her shoulder burning with pain. The hatch wouldn't budge. She pushed harder, shouting through clenched teeth until it gave way, bursting open into the cold night air. She crawled out, pulling Milo behind her, and collapsed on the ridge above the valley. The stars shimmered overhead, the wind cool against her sweat. Behind her, the widow's maw roared as it collapsed inward, sealing the evidence from those chasing her. But Rachel had what mattered most, copies of the truth. For the first time in years, she felt alive. She looked at Milo and whispered, "We're not running anymore." Dawn rose over the Blue Ridge Mountains like fire. Rachel stood tall, bruised, and exhausted, but unbroken. The satellite phone blinked, a signal confirmation. She had already sent everything, the files, the documents, the video, the coordinates. It was all in the hands of Ben Carter now. All she could do was wait. Days later, as rain clouds rolled over Washington, D.C., the truth finally broke. Every news channel across the country reported the same headline: "Private military CEO arrested for treason and arms trafficking." The footage of Isabella Reed's secret deal played across America. The nation erupted in shock. Congress opened investigations. The FBI raided Aegis headquarters, and Reed was led away in hand. Handcuffs, Rachel watched it all on a small screen in town. She had done it. She had exposed them. But instead of glory or fame, she felt only peace. She refused the government's protection, declined interviews, and took the small fund Weber's family sent her to rebuild her cabin. It wasn't much, but it was enough. This time, her home would be built not to hide, but to heal. Months later, Rachel sat on her rebuilt porch as the sun rose over the mountains. Her coffee steamed gently in her hands, and Milo slept beside her. The forest was quiet again, but this time it wasn't a silence of fear, it was peace. One morning she found a letter in her mailbox, no return address. Inside, a single note written in careful handwriting. "Rachel, you were never supposed to find it, but I'm glad you did. Tell them I went down fighting. Captain Thomas Weber." Tears filled her eyes. She looked at Milo and whispered, "He knows we made it." She smiled softly, watching the mist roll over the ridges. Rachel Morgan had once lived to forget. Now she lived to remember, for the fallen, for the truth, for everyone who thought their voice didn't matter. Because in a world built on silence, one voice can still shake the earth. The woman who once fixed broken machines had repaired something greater: faith. And if you believe, like Rachel did, that the truth is always worth fighting for, then stay with us. Because stories like hers remind us that courage doesn't live in noise or fame. It lives in the quiet hearts that refuse to give up. Subscribe and keep walking with us through the stories that deserve to be heard.
I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you to each and every one of you. Folded hands, your love, support, likes, comments, and subscriptions mean the world to me. Without you, this journey wouldn't be possible. Every view, every share, and every encouraging word keeps me motivated to create more content for you all. I'm truly grateful to have such an amazing community by my side. Let's keep growing together and making this journey even more special. Red Heart.